My name is LANE COBB, and I am a life coach, an inspirational speaker, and transformational author of Be Your Biggest Champion, a self-esteem guide for teen girls. And I am on Jerry Royce Live.
Hello, and thank you for stopping by. I'm your host, Jerry Royce, and welcome to Positive Power 21 Network, where you get your positive on. This is a worldwide podcast for growth, wealth, and success. Thank you.
Positive Power 21.org, Internet Radio.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and welcome to Jerry Royce Live on Positive Power 21.org. I am the voice of Jerry Royce, and when it's all positive, it's all power. That's Positive Power 21. And today's sponsors are, all right, we got a big event coming to Baltimore, Maryland. It's a play written by Zenobia Sampson. General admission is $15. It's on July 19th, so it's coming up really soon. For more information, you can check her out on Facebook, Zenobia Sampson. And if you go out to Positive Power 21, you'll see a flyer for it, and you'll be able to click and get to her a lot faster, because I know everybody can't spell Zenobia. It's even harder to spell. All right. And we got Pamela Samuel Young, author of Anybody's Daughter. When a 13-year-old Brianna is ensnared in a horrifying world of human sex trafficking, her uncle Dre, a man with his own criminal past, scores the dark corners of L.A. determined to find her. Dre ultimately he comes up with a daring plan that puts everybody's life in danger, including his. But he will find Brianna. No, will he find Brianna before it's too late? So check that book out. That's Anybody's Daughter, and that was just released by 2014 NAACP Image Award winner Pamela Samuel Young. And she also has a book out called Kinky Coily, a natural hair resource guide for you people out there got natural hair. You want to have a nice curly look. She has a couple YouTube videos out there to demonstrate to you, and they were very informative. I even got my due together now thanks to Pamela. Thank you, Pamela. Much easier in the morning now. And all those books are on her. I mean, she has a whole lot of books anyway, but her books are all on her official website at PamelaSamuelsYoung.com. All right? We appreciate her. And we want to thank author and motivational speaker Bunny DeBarge. That's right. Bunny is back on the scene, and she released a book called The Kept Ones. It's being re-released in the fall under Volume 1, and then she's going to release Volume 2 right after that one. And this is a definitive story of the DeBarge family captured in 2 volumes, from their spectacular rise to the top of R&B music royalty, their fall from grace, to their re-emerging careers. And you can check out on YouTube also some really good clips of what they've been through the last week. They were a lot of people's favorite groups. I mean, they were a pretty family. Nobody was really hating. They were a good-looking family. They had some really good music. I mean, they were competing with Prince and Michael Jackson and the Jacksons. I mean, that was a really good time back in the 80s and the 90s. So we really missed that family. We're glad that Bunny is back. All right. And we thank you guys for holding tight. We have a special guest tonight. I met her at a business expo in Columbia, Maryland. I had a really good time. That was my first time taking my company out on the road and doing live interviews. And we met this author, Ms. LANE COBB, there, and she gave an excellent presentation about her book and what she does. And I'm going to read her bio. Okay? It said, welcome to Straight Talk Empowerment Coaching for Women, dedicated to supporting you in living a courageous, passionate, and satisfying life. My name is LANE COBB, and I am a holistic, intuitive life and wellness coach, supporting women to reconnect with their passion, discover their purpose, and see more who they really are so they can be who they really want to be. With 25 years of coaching experience, I have supported hundreds of women in their path to self-empowerment, to the discovery of their unique gifts and talents, and to the expression of their true voice in the world. Over the years, It has been my pleasure to coach women of all walks of life, including CEOs and business executives, physicians, pastors, and educators, just to name a few, all mothers, wives, sisters, and friends, all seeking to access a better level of personal power and a deeper appreciation of what it means to be a powerful woman. Now, and I've read a lot of these, and I say, Ms. Lane, you guys can get creative when it comes to writing about empowerment. Wow, that was fantastic. So how you doing tonight? Welcome to Positive Power, Jerry Royce Live.
Thank you, Jerry. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm excited. I can't wait for this interview. It's really exciting.
All right. It's so glad to have you. Like I was telling everybody, not just everybody that's listening to the show, but I was telling people right after that event, I had the most wonderful time. I mean, it was my first time, interviewing people, up front and personal, face-to-face, right, without no cue, just, just doing it. And I was really, really impressed with the ladies that attended that event that were vendors. Did you have an opportunity to meet some of the ladies?
I did. I went to each and every booth. I met each and every other woman who was there. We were all so powerful. It was really great event, and led by Agnes Ipatoon, and I know that you know Agnes, and she is an incredibly powerful businesswoman dedicated to empowering other businesswomen to get together and share with each other, and all to support. I was just a pleasure to be there. There were there were coaches there. There were people who to help with health and wellness and beauty and fashion. And, I attended a couple of the talks that were there. It was a great event, Jerry. It was great to meet you there.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. It was really great to meet you guys. And you're right, the talks were fantastic. I mean, I arrived just in time to hear one of the speakers, and I was very impressed with her. And I couldn't believe that event was just $5. Man, to get all of that, that was crazy. Well, we're here to talk about you now. Holistic coach, intuitive. You got a body worker, straight talk, empowerment coaching for women, helping women create more joy, freedom, prosperity. Whew, that's a lot. Tell us about yourself, Lane, before you get to your business. Tell us something about you, because I didn't get a chance to read about your education and what you do for a living, where you've been, why you're here, why you're doing what you're doing. So lay it on us. We're ready to hear you. Go ahead.
Well, I'm happy to tell you. I do currently live in Columbia, so Baltimore, Maryland suburb, and I am originally from New York. So I have been living here in Baltimore for about 20 years. It's been my pleasure to get to know the wonderful people here in Baltimore. And I have been a coach in some capacity, working with women for, as my bio says, for around 25 years. I've been a personal trainer, a wellness consultant, a massage therapist. I am, a life coach and a certified wellness coach. And I have dedicated my life really to helping women create a context for wellness, for helping women to understand what it is to be well in the body, in the mind, and in the spirit, to help women to actually step into who they are and to ask for what they want and to create a lifestyle that is aligned with their values and what's important to them, so that they can take care of themselves as well as they take care of others.
That's right.
Because that is part of our DNA. Women, we are the caretakers, and very often we take care of other people much better than we take care of ourselves. And my commitment is that women, we put ourselves on our own to-do list, and so that's what I've been helping women do for half my life.
I see.
Yep, and I am a wife and a stepmom, and just happy to be a woman who has reinvented herself several times in her life. And most of the clients that I have now, the women that I work with, are women who are also in the second half of their life and reinventing their second act and going about it in a wonderful way. So I'm blessed to be here at this time of my life, helping women to be all they can be. It's just a pleasure, and it's exciting, and I'm happy to be living my purpose right now, Jerry.
That's right. That is powerful when you're able to live your purpose. That was exactly what we was talking about in the earlier show, why a lot of people feel the way they do because they feel like, I remember interviewing a few executives. I work for the federal government, and most of them, the similar advice was, don't chase the money, don't chase the grade. They almost saying, find your purpose here. Find that dream job. Don't chase the money, don't chase the grade. And looking at their face, they're telling me I'm not happy, but I'm not going to tell you that. Just look at me.
Yes.
What's your advice for someone who's seeking, to move up the ranks in corporate America or the federal government? What is your advice? Well, how would you coach them, what to expect?
Well, I think what happens very often is that we start to look outside of ourselves for what's going to make us happy. We look on the outside. We look at signs and signals. We look at the media. We look at other people. We start to listen to voices of people who don't necessarily have our best interest at heart. But we start to, or we are in the rat race where we know we have to make money, and there's a certain kind of an image that we want to protect. And so very often we lose sight of what is important to us. Sometimes a society doesn't reward people who are marching to a different drummer, right? It's not necessarily easy to say, listen, I'm not going to go for that promotion. I'm not going to go for that job because that doesn't work for me. But what I do want to do is, maybe I want to be president of my own company. So what I would say is for each and every person to actually take a moment and look inside of themselves. What is important? What is the experience of life that you're having right now? And does anything feel like it's missing? And what would make the difference, right? What would make the difference if it was there for you? What do you really want and why?
That's right.
You hear a lot of people talk about your why. There's books being written about your why, and most entrepreneurs really always go through that question of what do I want and why? Why do I feel like this is what I want to deliver? And most people don't ask ourselves that. We just kind of go for it willy-nilly, and that's why when we get there, we kind of look around and going, oh my gosh, well, why am I still not happy? Well, that's because you didn't figure out why you were going for what you were going for. So you have to sit down and ask yourself, what's important to me and why, and how am I going to get that out of life?
Yeah. Now I'm meeting, a lot of life coaches now, wellness coaches. I know you guys putting different spins on it now. When, your clients, when would a woman identify the need to hire a coach versus seeing a psychiatrist?
Wow, yeah, that's not an unusual question. Coaching and therapy are really two different animals. The similarity is obviously that we both have the client's best interest at heart. We want the client to grow and develop into their own best self, but the approach is different. So while therapy tends to be remedial, in other words, it's looking for something to fix. It focuses on what's wrong. Coaching really does focus on what's right. Coaching is a process of helping someone to acknowledge and call on their strengths and to move forward with velocity. So not that it doesn't take the whole person into account, and we do look back when we need to, but there's a forward focus to coaching. That isn't necessarily there with therapy.
Yeah, because I'm looking at a manager I was working with. She was a very good manager when it came to being organized. She was really organized. She knew her tasks, her action items every day, and she knew how to train. Because she trained me very well. The problem was her engagement with the staff. It's like they felt like they were just a body. They didn't feel like they were part of her team. And I was wondering, how would she identify this time to get a coach? She can't get any help from her mentor because that person enjoy what she's doing because the numbers are looking good. But I mean, how would now me, being on the outside and the inside, looking in and out because I'm working with her, would I handle your card or someone's card? I mean, how would she know that she needs your help? That's
well, she might not know that she needs anybody's help. If it's working for her, listen, you can't get in anybody's head. So unless someone says to her, your staff is not happy or your staff is not performing, right? As long as she's getting good job review, she's not necessarily going to know that there is something lacking. And this is not unusual. What you're talking about is not unusual. I love to do in-service days with staff because it isn't necessarily difficult to empower people, but it's often not understood that way. I think that sometimes managers feel the need to hold power in instead of giving power away in the right direction to empower another. And what happens is that their results and their productivity goes way up and off the charts just by making some simple adjustments in the way that they communicate or the way they delegate. But she wouldn't necessarily know, Jerry, so I don't know what you're going to do about that.
Well, she lost her position when I left. I held the ship together. But I was just wondering, if I ran into a manager like that again, I mean, it's kind of hard to express this part, but okay, a lot of them, they do give me the respect of the experience because they know I come from private industry and, ran a business for my dad, a newspaper business, which is one of the most difficult businesses running a publication. So they know I come to the plate with a lot. But when you're a grade level or two down, how do you tell a person who's not doing a great job in another area that they need help and you can help them? I'm just wondering sometimes, how you say that to them, because there's a lot of them out there, especially women. You have a lot of women who hold these positions, but everybody's not happy working with them, and all they need is just an adjustment. But there's nobody there that's going to be able to tell them that. That's not their boss.
Well, there's a lot of men that have people working with them that are not happy either. So
right.
So
Absolutely.
It's not just women that have that problem. And here's the thing, right? I could answer the question, but that's why there are organizational psychologists out there. That's why there are people who do organizational coaching, executive coaching. And I don't necessarily do executive coaching. We could talk about this for so long. We could take up your entire show talking about this. Because it's a big problem. And what I would say to you is any time that you want to help someone, if you see that someone could use a little coaching or a little support,
right,
you have the power. You have the power, and this goes to anyone out there listening. Whenever you see someone in need of something, if you have something to offer, don't be afraid to offer it, because you don't know what the person is going through. It could be that person is just dying for someone to give them a little helping hand or to just bring some light into their life, to just say, hey, have you ever thought of X, Y, Z? Because if we always look from the outside and say, oh, wow, that person is drowning, but I'm afraid that I can't really say anything because I'm underneath them, that's just really a selfish way to look at life. We're all here to help each other. So I'm going to empower you right now, Jerry Royce, and say the next time that happens to you, speak up, brother. Speak up. That's what you're there for, man. You're there.
You just empowered me.
There to help.
That's right. That's why you on the show. You just empowered me and probably 1,000 other people who are in the same situation. Wow.
We're here to help each other, man. You got to say what you see. You can say it with love, right? It's about speaking with love.
That's right. I like that. I like the way you put that. Wow. You just show some real talent just now because I was stuck. Wow. I loved it. I love it. Wow. Positive power. All right, Lane. All right. Now you got this business model. You're loving it. Been 25 years. Now, according to your bio, you had some traumatic things that went on early on. You mind talking about some of those things?
Well, I do. I do have them. I do have them listed on my in the bio. I do talk about them quite a bit in the book as well, which is one of the reasons why I wrote this book, Be Your Biggest Champion: A Self-Esteem Guide for Teen Girls. I was for many, many years as a child and well into my teen years. I was bullied quite relentlessly, actually. So it's the whole thing where you're afraid to walk to school and afraid to walk home and afraid to walk through the halls. And, it's that kind of, relentless bullying. And, of course, when you're a kid going through that kind of thing, you automatically think there must be something wrong with you. It couldn't possibly be that these people just have a bee in their bonnet, and they decided that it was your day, And so for years that happened, and I didn't tell anybody because, again, I'm a kid, and I figured, what are they going to do about it? And I didn't, I was already feeling pretty bad about myself. I realized as an adult the effect that had on me really affected my choices. The quality of my choices over the years was really informed by that because I started to feel, not so great about myself. My self-esteem was really low. I made some pretty bad choices about the people I hung out with and the situations I got into. And I'm not going to go into everything here on this program, but I do share about it in the book because I realized that there are young women and girls who are living through very much the same thing as I lived through. I did survive a personal attack in my 20s, and I did find myself in some compromising situations. And it is difficult often when you are between the ages of 13 and 19, that's who this book is designed for, to make good choices, particularly when you're searching for your own identity. You're trying to navigate adolescence with all of the physical and emotional changes that are happening. You're wondering what your life purpose is. You might be getting conflicting messages from your parents, your teachers, your peers, the media. You're facing all kinds of social challenges. And so when you're in that that whole kind of mix of challenges, it can be very difficult to find your way through. And I know that for me, I decided that there was no other reason for me to have lived through that than to reach back and help someone. And that's why I wrote this book. I wrote Be Your Biggest Champion: A Self-Esteem Guide for Teen Girls. It was a labor of love for me because I knew that I had some healing to do and that I could help other women heal who had been through this type of thing, but also to help the youth who are struggling with that now. Because if I can save any young lady from making the mistakes that I made, then that, I've done my job. That's my reason to be here. That's the reason why I lived through those things. So absolutely, that's one of the reasons why I said to you, you're here to help someone. If you see someone struggling, it's your job to reach out.
Absolutely.
It's your job to reach out.
Yeah, sometimes you're just wondering, you're in the right place to do that, but, I get it now. Basically, this book, The Biggest Champion, Self-Esteem Guide to Teen Women, it's a motivational guide, help develop them and maintain their self-esteem. Now, you have a lot of, I wonder now, is it tougher now because of social media? It's almost like you have to be accepted on social media and offline, double dipping. What are the youth going through today? Yeah, I
think it's incredibly difficult. It's crazy difficult. Social media really has taken a lot of the privacy out. There's no privacy, so that almost everything that anyone is going through is right out there for everyone to see. And because the kids have been conditioned that way, they don't really think before they post. So they just post stuff about themselves and other people, and it can be very embarrassing. And what they want to do, obviously, when you're a teenager, the most important thing to do is fit in and belong. So it's not unusual for teens to be doing things that if they thought about it for a minute, they wouldn't do. But because they're not thinking so clearly very often, but because they want to fit in, they're going along with things that they know they don't want to do, they don't feel comfortable with, but they feel almost compelled to do. And, of course, the media is really bombarding our teens with so many disparate messages, but also with negative messages, with negative imaging about particularly about what it is to be a woman, to be female. I don't think that the images are particularly empowering these days. And so couple that with trying to fit in, as you say, in person and, live from moment to moment, it's double dipping at its worst degree. Yeah, it really is. It's like you're being under a microscope at every single moment of the day, and who can survive that? Let alone a teenager who doesn't even know who she really is yet. Do you know what I mean?
Right. That's right. And at 11, 12, 13, 14, real critical times for a young woman. What we're going through with my daughter, she's 13 going on 14. It's just, where is she? What happened to my daughter? It's like, wow, a parent really has to find, like, real power in everything they do with their children now. You have to make some real hard choices for them. Should you give them the smartphone because everybody else, all the other friends have one? Should you say give them a time that they can play on it? It's like you're trying to find restrictions, but you feel like you're hurting them time more than helping them.
Well, it's true. It is important, though, always to remember that you are the parent. It's always very important. But I always say this to my clients who are struggling with their relationships with their teens. More than anything, it's important for your teen to know that you are there, for them. They must know that they can trust you, that they can come to you with anything. And for the parent to let them know that they are whole and complete. There's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing missing. We want to teach our girls and our young men to love themselves and accept themselves unconditionally, regardless of what other people tell them, regardless of any mistakes they've made, regardless of what they see in the media, that they are whole and complete and absolutely divinely gifted. There's nothing missing, and they have nothing to be embarrassed about or ashamed of. And just to have them know that you love them that way, unconditionally. I don't care what you did. I love you, and you can come to me and trust that I will hear you, love you, honor you, and I'm the parent, and I'm here because I love you. I'm going to tell you what I think, right? So not to, throw your hands up and step back, not to, be their best friend, but to champion them regardless, because our kids are going through so much of what we don't even see a lot of what's going on for them. I know that, in my workshops, I have young ladies who I see are, very reticent to raise their hands and contribute, but when they do, the weight, just falls off their shoulders because they've just wanted to say these things for so long, and they haven't felt like they are safe because very often they don't want to disappoint their parents. They don't want to disappoint. They want to, they feel the need to impress and fulfill, and it's a lot of pressure. So just to let your kids know you love them, you're there for them, you accept them, and you just think you want them to be the best them they could be, and you just think they're the cat's pajamas. You know what I mean? Because it's really important.
Yeah, that's right.
It's really important. They've got to know that we're in their corner.
Yeah, and I tell my kids all the time. I'm their biggest fan, especially they excel pretty much in every type of sport, music, dance, you name it. They're just really gifted at those things. So things come so easy to them. They straight A students. They get into the best schools that not money can buy, but public schools. Those magnet programs that they have. Most of the programs that my kids have been in, you have to audition for those programs. And,
that's awesome.
And in this case, they had just rehearsed with my wife like a night or two before the audition and got in. And then people looking to say, I thought you were studying to be your black belt, but you got into a dance program against girls who've been dancing all their life. My daughter say, oh, yeah, I just had a coach that worked with me for several weeks, and bam, she was able to compete and got in.
Yeah, it's important. And I just saw the announcement about your daughter with her book, right?
Yeah. No, that's not my daughter. That was actually Cheryl Wood's daughter.
Oh, that was Cheryl Wood's daughter.
Yeah, that was Cheryl Wood. Yeah, that was her daughter.
I thought that was your daughter.
Yeah, I was getting all these hits, and I was like, don't they see Cheryl's name right next to it? But people were so excited.
Apparently not, because I thought it was your daughter, but it doesn't matter because she's an extraordinary young lady, and it sounds like your kids are too, and that's important.
Yeah.
And the reason that our kids excel very often is because they have someone behind them. But there's so many kids who don't have anybody behind them, and kids are growing up way too fast these days. And it's important for us to allow our kids to be kids. Because what they're dealing with very often are adult issues.
Yeah, they are.
Issues.
They are.
The choices that they're making now.
Because, it's so funny that, I go to the high school to mentor to these kids in the Second Chance program that's returning to high school, but they can't be with the regular population. I've spent a year with these kids, and then I spent several years with the athletes, the basketball guys, the football players, and these guys seem like they're right on track. And then I had brought in a couple managers from the federal agency I work with, and they're pretty much trying to inform the guys to make sure you have your A, your B, and your C plan, just in case something happened on the field, that doesn't go your way. You'll say, okay, I have my degree in my pocket and I can still move forward. And it was very interesting conversations that came out of those workshops. But the main thing that I found the division was that it was a majority of the boys come from group homes at this particular high school. This area is of Baltimore County is very popular for foster care and adoption, group homes, a lot of them. And that's the makeup of their population. So when you're in there talking about support system, it's like they're looking at you saying, well, my support system is right here. Is my best friend, and it's my teacher, and it's the principal. So what are you talking about? I'm not going to have it at home. So I'm finding out after getting to know them that they don't have anything at home. They'll tell you they have no support system at home at all.
Oh, yeah.
So
I did have that same actual experience. I ran a mentoring program for young ladies at Catonsville High School last year, and it was tragic, and I love them all. I mean, each one of them, gifted, beautiful, wonderful, talented, but none of them had any idea about how special they were or felt comfortable, expressing themselves genuinely, and there was so much pain in the room. And these are young ladies, as you say, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, and, we're doing an exercise in the class where we're going around, and I asked each one, I said, everybody, we're going to just raise our hand anytime you have what I'm going to say, any particular trauma in your life. And I went around the room, pregnancy, hands went up, incarceration, hands went up, drug and alcohol, hands went up, domestic violence, hands went up. And so all of us, we're raising our hands, I'm raising my hand, they're raising their hand, and, we're all looking around the room at how similar we all are in the fact that we all have experienced different traumas, if not in our own lives, but in the lives of people that we care about. and that what we are doing, and at a very young age, is covering all these things up. We're developing this attitude of shame and embarrassment, not wanting anybody to know that we've lived through these things. And what that does is it absolutely takes the joy out of life, so that they're growing up way too fast. They don't have, and so these particular group of ladies, they said to me, no, I don't. I'm being raised by, my grandmother, or I'm being raised by my foster parents, or I'm being raised by, but whatever that was, they did not feel the nurturing that they needed to the extent that they needed it at the time. And not that whoever was raising them was not at least trying to do a good job. I'm not saying that, but it's not unusual that our youth are not getting what it is that they need, because the structure is not there the way it used to be.
Right. That's right.
In the family or in society. So this book I really, wrote not only for girls to read, but for organizations to use. So organizations who are already doing advocacy work with teens. My book is an excellent curriculum guide, because I discuss all of these issues. I discuss, not only do I discuss traumatic events, I discuss teen pregnancy, I discuss healthy relationships, drugs and alcohol abuse, the bullying. I also discuss how to help teens step into their gifts, how to help them express themselves. So I give them, and this is a workbook, so I give them exercises to help them to absorb this information. How can they design a game for their life? How do they create healthy goals? How do they be enthusiastic in their life? So this book really has a lot of that in there, because I see the need, and I'm very much interested in getting it in the hands of people who are already doing this work with teens, because I know partnership is everything, Jerry. So I'm not going to save the world by myself, but me and 100 other people, we can do the job. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and knowing what I'm hearing in my mentoring session, because it's not, but the area where I'm working is not too far from the area you just mentioned, Catonsville, Woodlawn, Catonsville. They pretty much share the same beltway link. Same kids, experiencing all. Not only, like you said, they're experiencing it, but their siblings, maybe the kids that's in the group home with them, are going through some of these things, and a book like this is definitely a guide for, I say this is probably the perfect book for maybe a person who is offering foster care in their home, because a lot of times we don't know, we didn't get a guide to be parents to our biological kids, so they're going to need even more help if they don't have their own biological kids. They definitely going to need help. So this is the perfect gift for anyone out there who's trying to raise kids, on their own, it's grandmother or adoption family. They need help. This is the perfect book. Be Your Biggest Champion, a self-esteem guide for teen girls. Now, Lane, you hit on some real important things about those groups, getting the girls to express themselves. Do you introduce things like yoga and Pilates? Because it seems like when you introduce these things, because a lot of us don't discover this until we get to a certain point in our life, and we say, we need to find a way to de-stress. I find yoga to be a great de-stressor. Are you introducing this to the young ladies, like martial arts and those kind of things?
I do have a chapter in the book on self-care and learning how to take care of your body. I don't specifically talk about yoga. I do teach yoga. I have workshops. I have done workshops, yoga workshops for women, and I tend not to do it necessarily when I'm doing the workshops for girls, depending on what subject I am discussing. It is very important, however, to bring in a physical element to any workshop, because memory really is a physical function. There is such a thing as cell memory. So anything that we live through, anything that we remember, we think it's stored in our brain, but it's not. It's actually stored in our bodies. So that's why, when you smell a particular smell, apple pie or whatever, if you had a good experience with apple pie, you'll be, you'll start to feel good, or vice versa. Or if someone says something that reminds you of a negative experience you had, then you'll have a negative physical reaction, right? You want to always notice that the reaction is physical. The thought may be, it's a mental thought, but it's a physical reaction. So when you're working through learning anything new or changing neural pathways, thought pathways, behavioral pathways, it's always important to do something differently. So I always encourage young ladies to exercise any way you can. And our kids do not get enough exercise. So unless they're playing sports, they don't get enough exercise at all. And that is one of the reasons I think why that there is so much more, I don't want to say negative energy, but there's so much more nervous energy, the energy that our kids are displaying these days. There's a lot more depression. There's a lot more anxiety. There's a lot more the ADHD, right? A lot of that stuff wasn't around when there was gym or in the school, or when there was music in the school, or when there was art in the school. So like you were saying, your kids are lucky enough to be in these programs where they have to audition into. But, the majority of our kids don't have that opportunity to be in these programs where they're getting that well-rounded education that includes, art and music and all these other aspects of self-expression. So yoga is just one of those areas of self-expression that will allow someone to experience themselves on a deeper level. And as you say, just dispel a lot of the negative messaging and bring into your life a deeper sense of who you really are and ground you in what you're here for and what is your purpose. I love it that you brought that up. Yeah, thank you so much for talking about that.
Well, I was browsing your website. I saw, are these advertisers? And I was like, oh no, she's certified in all these things. So I saw Yoga Alliance. I said, wow. I remember reading about, I think it was a mentor or some guy that had ran a program inside one of those. Remember back in the day, the police used to run programs in the inner city, and then you have guys that be introducing like Tai Chi, Taekwondo, yoga, and was a few other things to the young people, and it really changed their wellness. They started understanding themselves a little bit about the makeup of their body, that they are living cells, and you have to take care of it. And drinking soda pop and eating potato chips for lunch is not healthy, that kind of thing. And I remember reading about this guy.
Well, they use that now. There's that a lot in for the returning veterans now for PTSD. So the exercise, the artistic self-expression is very important. I actually designed a healing modality that I call intuitive body coaching, actually, which helps women connect with their strengths and move past fear and self-doubt really quickly so that they can get to the next level faster. And that is just to reconnect, with your truth. And that happens when you can go in and listen to your body, because your body is always going to tell you the truth. It's always going to tell you the truth. Right. Yeah. So, and I know we're getting close to the end of this show. I want to make sure that listeners know how to connect with me and get my book. And I also want to talk about the program that I'm coming up with, because I think that's right in line with what we're talking about with the artistic self-expression and getting back in touch with truth, if that's okay. So let me know when that's a good time.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, because you got good time. You're making out really well. We got another.
Okay, well, I just was looking, I'm like, well, you know what? I don't want him to say, well, we have 1 more minute left. Sometimes that happens. I'm not going to do that to you. No, we don't have a guest after you, so you're in good shape. Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, so one of the things that I want listeners to know is that book is available on Amazon, and you can find that on my website as well. So my website is www.lanecobb.com, and there's a book tab there, and if you just hit on the books tab, you'll find that book. And you will also find 2 other books that I've written. I've written 2 books specifically for women, to help women really see who they are, and again, to integrate all of who they are. So whether they are recovering from trauma or whether they are reinventing themselves and move forward in life, the one book is called Heal Your Power, Heal Your Life, 10 Essential Healing Practices for Women on the Rise. And I thought about that because you were talking about the yoga, and I do have some healing practices in that book that are very easy to integrate into your daily life that will help you to come into your power. And the other is called Reclaim Your Power, 5 Steps to Living Life on Purpose. And that is a step-by-step guide to help any woman who is taking back her power and reinventing herself and ready to move forward in a big way. And those are also on that website. And you can also contact me there. Yeah, contact me on my website. I'd love to hear your feedback or to connect with me about buying those books in any way. And then the program that I want to let people know about is called Right for Power. It's called Right for Power, Uncover, Heal, and Confidently Step into Your Victorious Life. And it's a 5-week telecourse. And I'll be taking women on a journey of self-discovery in that course. And they'll be healing as they write their story.
Wow.
Because it's very important for us to tell our story. So as I was saying, with these books, I'm telling my story. And so in telling my story, I not only offer healing to the teens who are going through what I went through, but I'm also healing myself in the process and creating more power for myself and my mission in the process. And that's what I want for women, and that's what I'm offering in this 5-week telecourse. And
telecourse.
Yeah.
So how you do the telecourse? So how you do that? Is that on the internet or it's like a conference call?
That is a conference call, actually. Those are going to be 5 live calls that are going to be also recorded. The first one is on August 18th, and they're going to meet every Monday. Then there's going to be a 2-week break, and then we're going to meet every Monday evening in September. And in that 5-week telecourse, women are going to be able to gain victory over any past hurts or disappointments. They're going to create a deeper awareness of who they really are and what they're capable of in life. They're going to uncover their purpose and their power that is all involved in their personal story, and they're going to transform any painful memories that they might have into powerful sources of self-expression for themselves. So these women are going to be getting present to who they have been in the world and how powerful that makes them in their present, to give them some real clear direction about what their mission is for the rest of their lives. And I just cannot wait. I can't wait to share that process.
Listening to you and reading what's on the site, I said, wow, this seems so relaxing, so tranquil. It's like you kind of split your day up with your your job, your hustle and your bustle, and then you have this to come home to at 7:15. That's the perfect time. Dinner's already been prepared. The kids are settled in. The perfect opportunity for someone. 7:15 p.m.
I'll tell you, this is going to be quite a good time, I think, because I talk to women all the time who say, I would like to write a book. And woman after woman after woman, I could write a book about all I've lived through, or I would really like to write a book. And very often what happens is I'll talk to them a year later, and they'll still be saying, I'd really like to write a book. And, I was saying the same thing. And for years I thought to myself, I really want to write a book. And I could never quite figure out what it was I wanted to write a book about. And when I turned 50, I had this kind of like great awakening, and I kind of saw that there were so many things in my life that I hadn't completed yet. And I realized, my gosh, if I'm going to really write this book, I better hurry up. So I really want women to step into this power and step into this opportunity, because if you've been having that thought that you'd like to write a book, then that's your spirit telling you that that's part of your mission while you're here on the planet. And I want to help you do that. I want to help you get your story out there. And anybody who's interested in that, again, go to my website and go to the events page. Again, that's lanecobb.com/events, and you will find all of the details there on that program called Right for Power, Uncover, Heal, and Confidently Step into Your Victorious Life. And that includes a one-on-one call. That includes an author development coaching call with me as well. So it's not just the group that you'll be working with, and you'll be getting some templates. And if you're someone who's never written or someone who's already writing, we're going to have women from all backgrounds and in all different stages of life. So I encourage you to just check that out. And you can also contact me through my webpage if you have any questions about that. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I bet you. And that's a 60-minute program for each Monday, right?
Yes, it is. We're going to have 60-minute calls, and they're going to include some question and answer as well. So, by all means, you're going to get my personal attention, because I'm very passionate about this. My life has really opened up since I've written these books, and I really want to share this gift with other women.
That's right. So you call your company Straight Talk Empowerment Coaching for Women? That's the name of your company?
Yes, I do call my company that, because I don't know if you've been able to tell, but I tell it like it is, pretty much. I'm a straight talker.
You have to be. Somebody's listening, so open it up. All right.
Yeah,
I love that.
I tell you, the greatest gift that you could ever give yourself is to tell the truth.
Absolutely.
And that's also the greatest gift that you could give anybody else as well. Just to tell the truth. Yeah, and I find that's where healing is.
That's right. And I'm on your site now. Do you do videos where people can connect with you through your actual words?
I do. I have some videos on YouTube. I have one video on the site, and I have several videos on YouTube. And I am overdue to put some more videos up. But absolutely, videos are going to be part of this author development program as well. So I'm glad you asked about that.
Yeah, I can see that being really powerful,
Yeah.
Because I'm always out there looking for people. And it's funny, being in business, sometimes you feel like you're alone when you're in business, when you don't have a lot of partners. And I miss my partners. They're more like stakeholders nowadays. It's your idea. Here's the money, go do it. When you're in business by yourself, do you recommend a coach to that individual? Did you recommend?
I always do. I always recommend a coach, at least one. One. I've had several coaches over the years, and as a matter of fact, right now I'm working with 2 coaches for different areas, for different purposes. And the reason is because you can't see yourself in the picture, right? You can't see yourself in the picture. So imagine that you're someone who's standing behind the camera. You can't look through the camera and also be in the frame, right? So it's always easier for someone else to see things that might benefit you than it is for us to see it, because we've got so much going on. I always recommend that for anybody who's interested in moving forward faster. Being coached is always a good idea. It's never a bad idea. Now, you have to find the right coach, of course. All coaches aren't for everybody, but that's why you have sample sessions. That's why you contact a coach and say, I'm interested. I'm not sure if you're the one. Will you have a conversation with me? And so I have that on my website, as a matter of fact. Anybody who's interested in having a conversation with me about the possibility of being coached or hiring a coach, I'd love to speak with you. Please just go to my website and contact me.
That's right. Now, is it customary that coaches offer free initial sessions so you can get a feel of who they are? Is that something you see as the norm?
Some do and some don't. So I wouldn't say that it's the norm.
Okay.
I have a certain number of slots available for complimentary coaching initial sessions. So I certainly would make available the first 5 people who contact me from this show. Absolutely, I would offer a complimentary session. So by all means, if you're interested, if you're not sure but you think you might want to have a coach, please contact me. If you're a woman, if you're a man, I can definitely refer you to a coach as well. So contact me and I'll help you find a coach.
Yeah, because we have a lot of followers of this show. They wear a lot of hats. They're authors. Some of them are starting their own publishing company. They have small children. They have a husband. Some of them are in school. They're doing a whole lot of things. They're all over the place. And the work-life balance is probably a little off, as we speak. A lot of them not familiar with this occupation, this field, or career, you could say. What are some of the, like, how would you find out what the price, how the price works? Is it a retainer? Do they pay a fee per service? How many sessions? What do they need to know from you that can kind of put them on the right track and get them thinking about looking into getting a coach? Because it doesn't sound affordable to some people.
Yeah, it's interesting. For many people think that coaching is very, very expensive, and I say that is not always the case. If you are a business owner, for instance, the cost of coaching sessions is tax deductible. Mm-hmm. So many people don't understand that. You can deduct your coaching sessions. There are, if you are working for a company, sometimes you can ask your employer to pay for your coaching sessions. Oftentimes, there are coaches who work on a sliding scale. So you just have to look and have conversations. I often find that there are coaches who will work with particular organizations that they have an affinity to. So different women's organizations, some coaches that work with women will give a discount if you're a member of a particular organization. So you just have to kind of look and find the coach for you. Some coaches are very expensive. Some coaches are not so expensive. There is a coach out there for everyone, and you just have to call and ask. Call and ask.
Yeah, somebody just getting started probably be a little more reasonable, probably a few free sessions. How would they find a coach? Yeah. What are some of the methods of finding them? Yeah, how you find a coach?
Well, internet obviously these days is the way that everybody, mostly would find someone. And you could look up if you are, for instance, using some keywords, right? So if you're a coach looking for, depends on what kind of coach you're looking for, right? So you could put nutrition coach, wellness coach, fitness coach. It depends on what you're looking for. Relationship coaching, job coaching, career coaching. There is a coach for everything under the sun.
Yeah, that's a popular word.
Yeah, there are, exactly. Whatever you're looking for, there is a coach for you. And you just go and look at the listing. You go to that person's website, and they will very often say whether they offer a complimentary session or not. They will have their contact information there, and I encourage you to reach out to them. If that person resonates for you, you read what they have on their website, and you see if it clicks for you. Very often you could just look at their picture and see whether you think that's someone who would understand you or not. Very often you just call and have a conversation, and you'll know. You'll know. But I encourage everyone to reach out because, none of us gets through this life on our own, Jerry. We're all here to help each other. None of us is here to work in a vacuum. And the world can be a very lonely place, particularly these days when everybody is communicating through, a phone or internet or a laptop or something. Very, very few people are actually having conversations on the telephone or face to face at this point.
Right.
Yes.
And look, you can multitask now. You can text people on your phone and instant messaging them on your computer. And I think I had about 4 or 5 things going on today while I was at work, where internal messages were coming in, and then I had 2 people was asking me questions on my iPhone. So I think I had 5 conversations going. I couldn't do that on the phone, right?
And we don't realize how damaging that actually is. You know, the human body was not meant for that. The human mind and the human spirit were not built for multitasking. It's just not how we were made, and that's why it's so important to go inside and be present with yourself and unplug and be quiet and, you know, just be quiet and listen to the voice of God, you know.
That's
just
right.
Listen for your own internal voice, the real you, because, you know, when you're pulled in all those different directions, how can you hear God speaking? Like, really, how can you?
Yeah,
you really can't.
Because you're so tired when you go to sleep, and when you get up, you're like a robot just going through the motion to get to work and drive and all that stuff. But, Lane, I really appreciate you being on Positive Power. Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, she is the author of Be Your Biggest Champion, Self-Esteem Guide for Teen Girls. She has 2 other books which I was looking at that seem very powerful. Get your hands on them. Visit her site at LaneCobb.com. Her name will be spelled in the Facebook player, so they won't have any problems locating you, Lane. And I appreciate you being on Positive Power.
Well, I appreciate you, Jerry. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I also would love for anyone to reach out to me on Twitter. My handle is @GreatCoach. I would love for you to reach out, give me some feedback, tell me how I did on this radio broadcast. Let me know if there's any way for me to support you or your business. It's all about partnership. You know, we're here to help each other, and I just loved this experience. Jerry Royce, thank you very much for having me on your show.
You're welcome. I'm so glad that Business Expo, Success Revolution, got this together. It was fantastic. All right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, you're fantastic, Lane Cobb. Keep doing what you're doing, all right? And we'll help get the word out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Lane Cobb at LaneCobb.com. The author, again, Be Your Biggest Champion, a self-esteem guide for teen girls on Amazon and the Kindle, $6.99. You know, Amazon, they do have sales running occasionally. Cop that book. All right, let's take care. Jerry Bush Live, Positive Power. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to the Positive Power 21 Network.
Lane.
Team 21 would like to
hold
thank
tight
you
for
all
a second,
tuning in,
Lane.
and please spread the word and tell a friend. This is Jerry Royce at Positive Power 21,
hold tight
where
for a minute.
we get our positive on.
Okay.
Positive Power 21.org. Internet radio.
All right, that's a wrap.